I'm not a sexual predator. I'm just an offender. It's like the difference between a murderer and a person who steals a bagel. Everyone has secrets. Mine were just harmless compared to others. That's why people trusted me without hesitation. These words belong to Jeffrey Epstein, spoken back in 2011. The delusions of a man who described himself merely as an offender, trivializing his actions as nothing more than a cultural aberration. Back then, the world couldn't yet grasp the depth of the darkness lurking behind those sentences. Most of you think you know this story. A wealthy pervert got caught, was thrown in jail, and committed suicide in his cell. Case closed, right? You are wrong. The case didn't close. On the contrary, the real hell didn't break loose until years after his death, on that cold December day in 2025. When he took his last breath in that Manhattan cell in 2019, Epstein thought he was taking many secrets to the grave with him. But the gears of the American legal system, however slow, kept turning. By 2025, thanks to the Epstein Files Transparency Act signed during the Donald Trump era, those steel doors that had been sealed shut for years were flung wide open. Thousands of pages, flight logs, emails, witness testimonies, and photographs never seen before. What spilled out wasn't just a ledger of one man's crimes. These documents were an autopsy report revealing the rot within the power structures, financial systems, and justice mechanisms of modern Western society. The picture before us goes far beyond a simple prostitution case. This is a global spiderweb. We're talking about an empire stretching from the massive mansion on 71st Street, New York's most exclusive address, to the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, to Little St. James, better known as Pedophile Island. From the aristocratic boulevards of Paris to the desolate deserts of New Mexico at Zorro Ranch. And what happened inside these walls? Hidden cameras planted for blackmail, recording devices concealed within the architecture, a surveillance system capturing the most vulnerable moments of the world's most powerful people. Look at the names. We aren't just talking about tabloid figures here. We're talking about the people who run the world. Former presidents of the United States, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, and heir to the British throne, Prince Andrew, geniuses of the scientific world, tech giants, billionaires. They were all part of this web. They all boarded that plane, the Lolita Express. They all walked through those doors. The 2025 documents slapped us in the face with unseen photos of Clinton and revealed that Trump's trips on that infamous jet were far more frequent than previously known. One witness admitted that Epstein told them Clinton likes them young. Trump, years ago, had famously said of Epstein, "Terrific guy. He likes beautiful women as much as I do."
But why? The real question is this: how did Jeffrey Epstein, born into a middle-class Jewish family in Brooklyn, the son of a park groundskeeper, reach this point? How did a man without a college degree, a two-time dropout, come to command the wolves of Wall Street, world leaders, and Nobel Prize-winning scientists? Defining him simply as a wealthy financier is one of history's biggest lies, because he wasn't someone who managed money. He was someone who managed people. He was a GATSBY who managed secrets, weaknesses, and fears. The source of his wealth could never be fully explained. He was said to be a billionaire, yet he never appeared on the Forbes lists. Who were his clients? Was it just Leslie Wexner? Or was there a much darker, supranational structure, an intelligence network behind him? And of course, his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of a media baron, the darling of high society, the CEO of this criminal empire, the trusted big sister who hunted young girls, groomed them, and kept this horrific wheel turning. At the end of 2025, with a final move from her prison cell, she tried to change the course of the case, claiming there was new evidence. The story isn't over. In fact, everything is just beginning. Epstein's death was merely the curtain call. Now it is time to see the stage behind that curtain, the set design, and the puppet masters. In this documentary, we won't hide behind conspiracy theories. We will speak directly through documents, flight logs, police reports, and the screams of the victims. Are you ready to enter this labyrinth of blackmail, power, and corruption, stretching from the back streets of Brooklyn all the way to the corridors of the White House? Because nothing you see is what it seems. To understand the story of this man, Jeffrey Epstein, we must first go back to the very beginning, to those years when he wasn't yet a monster, but just a quiet kid, gifted at math. Every monster has an origin story, but Jeffrey Epstein's isn't the traumatic sob story you might expect. He was born on January 20th, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York, inside a gated, secure community called Seagate. His father, Seymour, was a groundskeeper for the Parks Department. His mother, Paula, was a housewife. On the surface, everything looked ordinary. Everything fit the American dream. Little Jeffrey was a quiet kid, but his mind was loud. His gift for math was so off the charts that he skipped a grade at Lafayette High School, graduating at 16. He was good with numbers, good with piano keys. It was as if the world, to him, was nothing more than an equation waiting to be solved. But beneath that glimmer of genius lay a nonconformist, impatient character. First, he entered Cooper Union, then dropped out. Then he transferred to New York University, NYU, but he didn't finish that either. Let's hit the brakes for a second, because this is where the story's first and biggest paradox begins. This man, who spent his life marketing himself as a man of science, donating millions to Harvard, and sitting at the same table as the world's smartest men, actually didn't even have a college degree in his pocket. So how did a dropout with no credentials infiltrate the most fortified citadels of the New York elite? The year is 1974. The place? The Dalton School, Manhattan's most prestigious, most expensive private school. The place where the Rockefellers and Rothschilds sent their kids. 21-year-old college dropout Jeffrey Epstein suddenly appeared there as a physics and math teacher. And who do you think hired him? The headmaster, Donald Barr. Does that name ring a bell? Donald Barr was the father of William Barr, the man who would become Attorney General under Trump and oversee the very agency responsible for Epstein's death in his cell years later. A twist of history or a dark coincidence? I'll let you decide. Epstein wasn't your classic teacher at Dalton. With his unbuttoned shirts, gold chains, and flirtatious demeanor, he caught the attention of his students, and more importantly, their wealthy fathers. He wasn't just teaching physics, he was weaving a web to climb to the next rung. And the first big fish to get caught in that web was the son of Wall Street legend and Bear Stearns chairman, Ace Greenberg. A parent-teacher conference, a brief chat, and just like that, Epstein transferred from chalk-dusted classrooms to the savage arena of Wall Street. When he walked through the doors of Bear Stearns in 1976, he was ready to become the finance world's golden boy. He had no degree, but he had lies and he had intellect. He made the bank so much money with his aggressive strategies and options trading that in just 4 years, by 1980, he became a limited partner. But this rise was cut short by a fall. In 1981, he abruptly resigned, or was fired. The official reason was policy violations. Did he make unauthorized trades on his own account? Did he scam clients? Back then, those questions were swept under the rug. But Epstein had learned his most important lesson. Playing with other people's money is more profitable than playing with your own. And right here, we enter the darkest, most mysterious era of the story, the mid-1980s. Those gray years where Epstein introduced himself as a bounty hunter, claiming to recover lost assets. The name that crossed his path in this era was Stephen Hoffenberg, the owner of Towers Financial. Hoffenberg and Epstein ran one of history's largest Ponzi schemes, a massive fraud worth $450 million. Years later, in interviews from prison, Hoffenberg explicitly stated Epstein was the architect of this thing. He planned how we would hide the money. And what was the result? The scheme collapsed. Hoffenberg was caught and served 18 years in prison. But what about Epstein? Just before the crash, he walked away with millions in his pocket, clean as a whistle. No lawsuit, no investigation. It was as if an invisible hand had plucked him from the jaws of justice. That was where the seeds of that secret fortune, those first millions of untraceable origin, were sown. He had money now, but what would give him immunity and unlimited power was something more than cash. He needed a golden ticket, and that ticket's name was Leslie Wexner, the retail giant, owner of Victoria's Secret and The Limited, the richest man in Ohio. They met in the late 1980s. What did Wexner see in Epstein? A financial genius or a fixer to handle his dirty work? We don't know. But in 1991, Wexner took an unimaginable step. He gave Epstein power of attorney. This is the ultimate power one human can grant another. Epstein could write checks, buy property, manage companies, and even borrow money in Wexner's name. And he did exactly that. That massive mansion in Manhattan, it was actually Wexner's, transferred to Epstein. That famous plane, the Lolita Express, transferred from Wexner's company to Epstein. Millions of dollars quietly changed hands. By the mid-1990s, the Brooklyn gardener's son was gone. Standing before us now was a self-made J. Gatsby, possessing a fortune of unknown origin, managing the money and secrets of the world's richest men. The stage was set. The money was there. The power was there. Now, it was time to build that spider web where he would use this power to realize his dark fantasies. The islands, the ranches, and the cameras. The gates of hell were about to open.
Money isn't just about purchasing power. If you have enough of it, you can buy your own reality. You can even buy your own set of rules. That is exactly what Jeffrey Epstein did in the late 1990s. He didn't just buy properties, he built sanctuaries, fortresses beyond the reach of governments, laws, and morality. Let's start with the darkest jewel in the crown of this empire, Little St. James, known to the public by a different name, Pedophile Island. From the outside, this private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands looked like a tropical paradise, but for Epstein, it served two purposes. First, a massive tax haven. Second, and far more terrifying, a hunting ground where no one could hear the screams. There was only one way to get there: Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, followed by private ferries. The only people who set foot there were Epstein's personal guests. Even the staff were silenced with ironclad non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. There was a temple on the island, a structure with a blue dome covered in strange symbols, its purpose unclear. The locals whispered about strange noises coming from the island, helicopters landing and taking off in the dead of night, but no one dared to ask questions because Epstein was the king of that island. He had silenced the police and politicians with donations. But a king needs a queen, or rather a manager, to run his empire. And this is where she enters the stage, Ghislaine Maxwell. The biggest misconception in the Epstein story is the idea that Ghislaine was just a girlfriend or a victim. No, Ghislaine was the CEO of this company. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was one of the world's biggest media tycoons and, allegedly, a Mossad agent. When her father was found dead in the ocean under suspicious circumstances, Ghislaine took her inheritance and her Rolodex and came to New York to Epstein. Do you know what Ghislaine's job was? To build trust. Epstein was rough around the edges, a college dropout, but Ghislaine, she was the embodiment of British aristocracy. She was the one talking to princes, dukes, and artists, and most importantly, she was the one selecting the victims. Here is how the system worked.
Ghislaine would approach young girls, usually from low-income, broken homes, or girls with big dreams. The ad for massage therapist wanted was just a front. She would act like a big sister, telling them, "Jeffrey can help you. He can pay for your tuition." Because she was a woman, a sister figure, the girls trusted her. In reality, she was the shepherd leading the lamb into the wolf's den. And this den wasn't limited to the island. The hub of the web was actually right in front of our eyes, Manhattan. The largest private residence in New York, a 9-story fortress. Those who went inside said the decor resembled a horror movie. Thousands of artificial eyeballs in the entrance hall, taxidermied animals, and that bizarre painting depicting Bill Clinton in a blue dress and red heels. But the most critical feature of the house wasn't the decor, it was what lay inside the walls. The 2025 documents and FBI raids confirmed this clearly. Every room in the house, the massage rooms, even the bathrooms were rigged with hidden camera systems. Wires ran through the walls to a single center, a locked server room. Why? Why would a person record his guests, the most powerful men in the world, during their most intimate moments? The answer is simple: blackmail. As the Russians call it, kompromat. Epstein's real business wasn't managing hedge funds. His business was mining people, getting Prince Andrew, senators, and scientists into that house, offering them forbidden fruit, and then turning that moment into a digital shackle forever. Once you were on that tape, you were Epstein's puppet. And the final, perhaps strangest link in the web, the New Mexico desert, the Zorro Ranch, completely isolated from the city and prying eyes. This was where Epstein lived out his mad scientist fantasies. Documents show he was obsessed with transhumanism here. He would bring Nobel Prize-winning scientists to the ranch, talking about projects to improve the human race with his own DNA. The ranch even had a massive underground bunker and its own dentist chair. Why? Why dreams of building a DNA lab in the middle of the desert? Epstein saw himself as not only above the law, but above biology itself. The command center in Manhattan, the Temple of Sin on the island, the experimental lab in New Mexico, and Ghislaine Maxwell connecting them all. This structure wasn't simple perversion. It was a criminal enterprise on an industrial scale. The logistics were flawless. But how did such a massive operation, so many victims, so many blackmail tapes, how did it all stay a secret? Or let's ask a more accurate question, who benefited from the existence of this structure? It is time to open Epstein's infamous Black Book, because the names written in that book will tell us why this man remained untouchable for years. Intelligence agencies, presidents, and Epstein who said, "I work for intelligence, don't touch me." If you are ready, let's go meet the real players behind the curtain.
Every criminal empire has a heart, but the heart of Jeffrey Epstein's empire wasn't that temple on the island, nor was it his offshore bank accounts. Its heart was a small, black, leather-bound notebook. This directory, dubbed by the media as the Little Black Book, was actually a map of global power at the turn of the 20th century. It contained thousands of names, not just phone numbers, but the most intimate contact details of these people. Private lines, and even passcodes for some. Who wasn't in this book? A list stretching from Alec Baldwin to Courtney Love, from senators to prime ministers. But three names shining within this crowd tell us the limits, or rather the limitlessness, of Epstein's power. The first name belongs to a man who held the title of leader of the free world, Bill Clinton. For years, the Clinton camp brushed off his relationship with Epstein, saying he only flew on the plane a few times for charity work. But those sealed files, unsealed in 2025, and the flight logs shattered this defense. The logs showed that Clinton didn't just take the infamous Lolita Express for humanitarian missions to Africa, but traveled on far more frequent and suspicious routes. One witness claimed in a deposition that Epstein told them Clinton likes them young. What business did a former president have on the shady porch of a private island owned by a man accused of child abuse?
The answer to that question might be hidden in one of the safes in that mansion. Is it just the Democrats? No. On the flip side of the coin, there is Donald Trump. Trump and Epstein were an inseparable duo in the New York of the 80s and 90s. Same parties, same women, same real estate ambitions. In that famous 2002 interview with New York Magazine, Trump said, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." Years later, they had a falling out, yes. They were at each other's throats over a real estate dispute. But the 2025 documents confirmed that Trump had used Epstein's plane far more times than previously known, and was right in the center of that social circle in Florida. The color of the politics changed, but their spot in Epstein's black book remained the same. And the most tragic, most scandalous name on the list? Prince Andrew, the Queen of England's favorite son. According to Virginia Giuffre's allegations, Epstein presented her to the prince like a gift. Even though Prince Andrew made unbelievable defenses in that disastrous BBC interview, saying things like, "I don't sweat, so that couldn't be me." The photos of him walking in Central Park with Epstein proved just how deep he was in this web. But Epstein's armor wasn't made solely of politicians. He employed a far more insidious tactic, using science as a shield. If you're a sex offender, how do you scrub your reputation? By drawing the world's smartest people to your side. Stephen Hawking, Marvin Minsky, Lawrence Krauss. Epstein poured millions into institutions like Harvard and MIT. He bankrolled science conferences. This was the most expensive reputation laundering operation in modern history. If a Nobel Prize-winning physicist is vacationing on your island, no one questions what you're doing in the back room. Science was Epstein's camouflage. But the real question still hangs in the air. Why did all these people, figures so intelligent, so powerful, and so protected, continue to associate with a
not
man like
by the
Epstein?
U.S. Attorney's Office.
The answer leads
In
us to the
2006, a
dark
grand jury
story,
convened
or rather,
by the state attorney, the district attorney of Palm Beach County, reviewed the evidence
2008.
and recommended
Alex
a
Acosta,
single
the
charge.
prosecutor in the initial
And that charge would have resulted in
who
no
years
jail
later
time
joined
at
Trump's
all,
cabinet,
no
explained
registration
why
as a sexual
light
offender,
sentence
and no
why they
restitution
let him
to the
go
victim.
with this terrifying
Further,
sentence.
The state attorney's office allowed Epstein to self-surrender
leave it alone because it was above my pay
and arraigned him the following morning.
to intelligence.
Simply put,
This phrase is the key.
the Palm Beach State Attorney's Office was ready to let Epstein walk free.
What came out
No
of the
jail
safe
time,
wasn't just
nothing.
cash and diamonds. A passport was found. Residence, Saudi Arabia. It had Epstein's photo, but a different name, Marius Robert Fortelny. Why would an ordinary financier travel the world with a fake identity, one that provided diplomatic cover? Allegations and data point to Epstein being an asset working for Mossad or the CIA, perhaps both. The fact that Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a known Mossad agent completes this picture. Epstein's mission was simple: catch powerful people in their weakest moments, record them, and keep those recordings as an insurance policy. He was a honeypot working for states. That is why he was untouchable for years. That is why the police were turned away from his door. That is why kings and presidents dined with him. Because Epstein knew everyone's dirty laundry, and information was more powerful than a nuclear weapon. But no empire lasts forever. Even the strongest armor eventually cracks. By 2019, the wind had changed direction. His protectors had started to see him as a liability. The system was preparing to swallow the monster it created. The fall was beginning, and it was going to be loud. Empires don't crumble overnight. First, hairline cracks appear in the walls. The first crack in Jeffrey Epstein's armor of immunity appeared in Florida back in 2008. The police came with evidence that was rock solid, testimonies from dozens of underage girls, a file that under normal circumstances would have let a man rot in prison for life. But remember, Epstein wasn't a normal criminal. That day, one of the most shameful agreements in American legal history was signed. With this monstrosity of a ruling, which the media dubbed the sweetheart deal, Epstein was granted immunity from federal charges. He received a mere 13-month sentence for a charge as simple as solicitation of prostitution. And when I say prison, don't picture iron bars, a private wing, his own security detail. And the punchline? Work release. 6 days a week, Epstein would leave jail at 8 a.m., go to his office, and return in the evening. This wasn't a punishment. This was just a timeout until the heat died down. Years passed. Epstein thought he had regained his old power. The parties continued, the scientists gathered around him again, but the world was changing. Women's voices were getting louder. The hashtag #MeToo movement was airing out the dirt that had been swept under the rug. And one woman, a brave journalist named Julie K. Brown, reopened that old file in the Miami Herald. The truths that emerged from those dusty shells were too big to be covered up this time. July 6, 2019, Teterboro Airport. Jeffrey Epstein was returning from Paris on his private jet. He felt so secure that he hadn't even felt the need to run. But this time, the welcoming committee wasn't his friends, it was FBI agents. He was placed in the MCC, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, known as the Guantanamo of New York. Bail was denied. For the first time, he was truly cornered. And then that strange chain of events began. On July 23rd, he was found unconscious in his cell. They called it a suicide attempt. There were marks on his neck. Epstein claimed, "My cellmate tried to kill me." That cellmate was Nicholas Tartaglione, an ex-cop facing the death penalty for a quadruple homicide. Epstein was immediately placed on suicide watch. This is isolation, where the lights are on 24/7 and every move you make is monitored. It is impossible to die there. But on the night connecting August 9th to August 10th, the impossible happened. What happened that night? Let's look at the chain of coincidences. 1. Epstein was taken off suicide watch. 2. His cellmate was transferred, leaving Epstein alone. 3. The 2 guards on duty that night failed to perform the mandatory checks. One was shopping online, the other was sleeping. They falsified the logs. 4. Both cameras facing the cell malfunctioned that night. When he was found at 6:30 in the morning, Jeffrey Epstein was dead. Official report: suicide by hanging. But the body was talking. Dr. Michael Baden, the famous pathologist hired by the family, found multiple fractures in the hyoid bone in Epstein's neck during the autopsy. Dr. Baden was clear. These fractures are extremely rare in hangings. They are more consistent with homicidal strangulation. Did Epstein kill himself? Or did those great friends who were terrified of him talking silence him? This was the most conveniently timed death in modern history. The case was dismissed. The secrets went to the grave with him, or so they thought. Ghislaine Maxwell was caught and sentenced to 20 years, but she was just a pawn. The real kings and queens were still out there. By 2025, those sealed boxes were finally opened. We saw that Epstein's web was far deeper than we imagined. Thousands of pages of documents spilled out, strengthening the thesis that this man was an intelligence asset. Perhaps the most bitter truth was this: this system wasn't designed to stop men like Epstein, it was designed to protect them. He wasn't a bug in the system, he was a feature. In conclusion, the Jeffrey Epstein story is not the biography of a pervert. This story is a documentary of what unchecked power can do, how money can buy justice, and how morality can be turned into a luxury detail. He is dead, but the planes flying to that island are still in the air. Those parties are being thrown in other mansions. That system is still running like clockwork. Don't think Epstein's black book is closed. The hands turning the pages have just changed. To seek the truth is to dare to stare into the darkness. We stared into that darkness, and the darkness stared back. Now the question is, will you be able to forget what you have seen?